Imagine a world where you could change lead into gold, discover the secret of eternal life, and understand the very fabric of the universe. Now, take a step back and realize this is not purely the realm of fantasy. This is alchemy, the predecessor to modern chemistry, steeped in mystical and philosophical traditions. Today, we're delving into that rich tapestry of alchemical magic, from the elixir of life to the philosopher's stone. We'll explore the ways you can bring this historic practice into your fantasy world building, not merely as a science, but as a profoundly symbolic and transformative art. Hello, adventurers of the fantastic and the seekers of arcane, and welcome back to another episode of Just in Time Worlds with your host, Marie Mullaney. Just before we get started, this video has been available to members of my channel for some time now. If you want to help me make more content and gain early access to my videos, you can pick up a wood membership to my channel for a mere €7 a month. And a shout out to the members of my channel who enable my journey through this fantasy world building. Right, enough of that. Grab your alembic and mortar, prepare your crucibles, and let's step into the enigmatic world of alchemical magic. We're going to start, as we normally do on this channel, with historical alchemy in our world. And the journey of alchemy begins in the sands of Hellenistic Egypt, a place where the arcane and scientific merged. The term alchemy itself stems from the Arabic al-kimnia, meaning the art of transformation. Rooted in metallurgy, medicine, and mysticism, the discipline was a melding of practical and theoretical, tangible and divine. Alchemists of the time weren't just proto-chemists confined to their labs. They were philosophers, physicians, astronomers, and mystics who sought understanding of the universe through the intermingling of science, art, and spirituality. An example from this era is Zosimos of Panoply, considered by many as one of the first true alchemists. Born in Egypt, Zosimos wrote numerous texts which combined practical alchemical knowledge with mystic philosophy and are considered the oldest known works on alchemy. His books, which he called Meta, a Greek word meaning things made by hand, guide us into the mind of ancient alchemists who viewed their work as much as a spiritual journey as a physical process. In the world they inhabited, science was not divorced from spirituality, but deeply entwined with it. We can see that in the way that Zosimos wrote about alchemy in the book of Sophy. Here is a quote from that book. There are two sciences and two wisdoms, that of the Egyptians and that of the Hebrews, which later is confirmed by divine justice. The science and wisdom of the most excellent dominate the one and the other. He goes on to say, as the sun is, so to speak, a flower of the fire and, simultaneously, the heavenly sun, the right eye of the world, so copper when it blooms, that is, when it takes the color of gold through purification, becomes a terrestrial sun, which is king of the earth, as the sun is king of heaven. And this is important if you're going to use alchemy in your world. Much like any of the Greek philosophies, it's not just a science. There is a strong spiritual aspect that underlies alchemy. And if you ignore that part and just use the chemistry, you're missing out on a very rich aspect of using alchemy in your world. But the story of alchemy isn't just a chronicle of philosophical musings. As we can see from Zosimos' writing, alchemy had a definitive goal: the transmutation of base metals into gold. This was the alchemical dream that defined much of the discipline's history. This wasn't just about creating wealth. It was a symbolic representation of the quest to perfect the imperfect through transmutation. alchemists saw base metals as raw and unrefined, and gold as the epitome of purity and perfection. The transformation process was therefore a metaphor for the human spiritual evolution, reflecting the aspiration to achieve a better, purer state of existence. On a physical level, the work of alchemists involved a host of chemical experimentation that sowed the seeds for modern chemistry. They attempted to unravel the mysteries of the material world, dabbling in distillation, fermentation, and sublimation, seeking the elusive philosopher's stone that could catalyze any transmutation. This kind of dabbling in science created some great scientific discoveries, and here are some notable examples of alchemists who made scientific discoveries of great importance. Jabir ibn Hayyan was an 8th century Arab alchemist, often considered the father of chemistry. Jabir made significant contributions to the field, and he introduced experimental methodology into alchemy and discovered many chemical substances such as sulfuric and nitric acid. His work laid the foundation for the later development of pharmacology. Then we've got a Swiss alchemist, Paracelsus, from the 16th century. Paracelsus is known for his contributions to the field of medicine. He advocated the use of chemicals and minerals in medicine and is credited for the naming of the element zinc. He was also the first to use the term unconscious in a physiological context, a concept later expanded on by the philosopher Carl Jung. And then Maria the Jewess was one of the earliest known female alchemists, and she is credited with the invention of several types of chemical apparatus, including the double boiler, the bain-marie, and is considered one of the founders of experimental alchemy. I also did speak about alchemy's contribution to porcelain manufacturing in Europe, which you can check out in my video on ceramics in the information card now. So these historical alchemists were trailblazers in their own right. Their spiritual aspirations, paired with their relentless experimentation, were early testimonies to the integrated nature of scientific and spiritual inquiry for alchemists. And as we can see from these examples, alchemy spread from its cradle in Egypt through the Islamic world, where it flourished under scholars like Jabir ibn Yaman and al-Razi. Then it was carried on into Europe, and there, especially during the Renaissance, it metamorphosed again, integrating with Christian mysticism and contributing significantly to the birth of modern Western science and philosophy. Even Newton dabbled in alchemy, although he made no significant advances there. So that was alchemy in our world. But what about your world? What if alchemy didn't just include the physical, but could also be used as a magic system? If you enjoyed this brief overview of alchemical history, hit the thumbs up button and let's talk about alchemy in popular fantasy. The Japanese series Fullmetal Alchemist draws heavily from alchemical law. Its fundamental principle, the law of equivalent exchange, echoes the alchemical pursuit of balance and reciprocity. Humankind cannot gain anything without first giving something in return. To obtain something, something of equal value must be lost. This is what the series proclaims. This is a modern reinterpretation of the alchemical process where the extraction of one element necessitated the balancing input of another. The show also brings the homunculus to the fore, a creation of alchemy to life as an artificial humans, each named after one of the 7 deadly sins. And this further plays on the concept of transformation, albeit a darker and more twisted transformation. The renowned novel The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho is another prime example of alchemy's symbolic presence in literature. This book uses the concept of alchemy to signify personal growth and self-discovery. The protagonist's journey in search of physical treasure, guided by an alchemist, gradually transforms into a spiritual quest for self-fulfillment. In this context, the Philosopher's Stone and the Elixir of Life become metaphors for personal enlightenment and actualization, illustrating the philosophical facets of alchemy. And finally, in the world of Gentlemen Bastards, a series by Scott Lynch, this world is teeming with alchemical wonders. In the city-state of Camor, alchemy is a practical and often deadly science, integrated with the daily life and the underworld in which most of the story takes place. Wraithstone, for instance, is an alchemical substance used to render a person unconscious, or even dead, depending on the dose. Emberlin's fire, another example, is a potent explosive substance commonly used for sabotage. And further demonstrating alchemy's transformative power, the Gentleman Bastards uses a concoction known as sortilege wine to manipulate memories and emotions, transforming perception itself. Alchemy in this context is far from esoteric. It's dynamic, impactful, and an often terrifying tool. So you can see that these are three interesting and very different takes on alchemy, from the balancing mechanic of Fullmetal Alchemist to the much more spiritual aspect of The Alchemist to the practical, more sciencey aspect of the Gentleman Bastard series. You can see the clear difference in implementation of alchemy in these worlds. So if you enjoyed this little exploration of alchemy in fiction, consider giving this video a super thanks. And let's talk about how to use alchemy in your world. At the heart of any enchanting fantasy world lies your magic system. And alchemy, with its fusion of tangible and ethereal, makes a pretty compelling choice for that underlying basis. The principles of alchemy that lend themselves to an engaging magic system are transformation, equivalent exchange, and the intricate dance between science and mysticism. Transformation is perhaps the most enthralling aspect of alchemy. Alchemists aim to change one substance into another, lead into gold, sickness into health, mortality into everlasting life. In a fantasy setting, this principle can be expanded dramatically. Consider an alchemist who can transform wood into fire, water into wine, or even thoughts into physical manifestations. Such transformations bring an element of unpredictability and surprise, adding depth to the narrative. The principle of equivalent exchange, especially as portrayed in the Fullmetal Alchemist, provides a powerful framework for balance and sacrifice. The concept of, in order to obtain or create something, something of an equal value must be lost or destroyed, adds a moral and ethical dimension to the magic system. Alchemists must weigh the cost of their actions, providing a fertile ground for dilemmas and dramatic tensions. You require this massive spell. What will you sacrifice? What won't you sacrifice? But this also brings up some fascinating questions, like what is equivalent value? Value in whose eyes? The alchemists? The world? Some kind of third-party force? Answering those questions can make your world and your magic system even richer. The interplay between science and mysticism gives alchemy its unique character. It allows for a system where logical reasoning coexists with spiritual or supernatural elements. Alchemists can be scholars who study ancient texts and perform rigorous experiments, while also pursuing a mystical path of inner transformation and enlightenment. You can even have some tension between the spiritual and the scientific here. After all, the more science learns, the more it might remove the mystery from the world. That might put the more practical science-based alchemists at odds with the more philosophical and spiritual alchemists who are interested in the inner journey. And so you could have like tension between your practical application and your physical and your spiritual enlightenment through alchemy. But those are the principles of a magic system. What about application? Are we talking potions, science? How would this actually work? So let's talk about that. Alchemy in a fantasy magic system can take a myriad of forms. Alchemists might draw intricate transmutation circles to channel their power, with each symbol and line holding specific meanings. This would require a form of ritual magic, check out my ritual magic thoughts in the info card, to create alchemical devices or effect transformation on a person or a thing. You could use the alchemical symbols from our world and have each symbol mean something, like an alphabet to write spells with. You could increase the complexity by having the symbols mean different things if they're combined with their elements. For example, the symbol for lead, when written on a lead sheet, might mean something impure, whereas the symbol for lead, written on a gold sheet, might be something being purified. And that could make for a nicely complicated written magic system, and check out the information card for my thought on writing as magic. Potions are of course an option with alchemy, and alchemical potions could serve a variety of purposes, from healing wounds to controlling the elements or even manipulating time. The creation of these potions could require specific recipes that are jealously guarded. You could have different schools of alchemy that all protect their knowledge fiercely, giving rise to individual espionage between the schools as a plot device. It could even be that potions require specific ritual beyond just the chemical mixing of elements, which could add further interesting twists to the magic system. The study of arcane alchemical texts could lead to forgotten knowledge, new recipes, or even forbidden practices. And this could be a driving quest for your characters, a goal that they have, a motivation for them to go and be part of the plot. Potions are of course a great consumable magic, and you can check out the information card for my thoughts on consumable magic items in general and how to use them. Of course, every magic system needs its limitations to maintain balance. The practice of alchemy could take a physical toll on the practitioner, draining their life energy or even aging them prematurely. The creation of powerful potions or transmutations might require rare and dangerous ingredients, forcing alchemists into perilous quests or morally dubious acquisitions. That kind of acquisition of components could be an adventure all by itself and could consume most of the story, as the alchemist needs to find the flipperty-gibbet in the forests of mildly terrifying monsters or whatnot. Lastly, the time and study needed to master alchemy ensures not everyone can wield its power lightly. It could take years, even decades, to learn and perfect, keeping the power of alchemy from becoming a simple solve-it-all tool in your world. I think alchemy is an undervalued tool in fantasy world building. Mostly when it is used, people seem to make it just a chemical tool, but it can be so much more than that. It can be the ritual aspect of your magic system. It can make potions. It can be a transformation-based magic system that also has strong spiritual and character growth elements. And yes, it can be a chemical tool. In short, alchemy can provide fantasy worlds with a unique blend of science and mysticism, transformation and sacrifice, giving rise to a riveting narrative and complex character development. And those are my thoughts on alchemy as a magic system. As you leave the building, do check out my books on the way out. And if you enjoyed this video, you might also enjoy my video on using onomancy or the magic of names in fantasy worlds. And I will see you soon for another episode of Just in Time World.